So about 5 years ago, I ticked a box off my bucket list and I bought a messed up Miata that was abandoned at a tow yard. I also rented some space at a warehouse with some friends to experience for a brief moment a dream of mine, which is to wrench on cars with my friends in our own space. I also decided to start a YouTube channel, which I guess is a second tick box off my bucket list. I released a series of episodes that documented my journey fixing up my little Miata. I had minimal mechanic experience, so what you'll see is me learning as I go and maybe making a few mistakes. The Miata is particularly special to me, not only because it was my first project car, but also because it was the car I reached my first million views on YouTube with. So enjoy, and thanks for coming on the journey with me again. Alright, what's going on everybody? We're going to go ahead and give you a quick walk around on the exterior of our Miata and show you everything that's wrong with it. So starting with the front bumper cover, damaged, bent in, going to have to be replaced. Along with the fender here, that's going to have to get replaced. Hopefully the hood and the pop-up light cover, they're damaged a little bit, but hopefully we can repair that and not have to replace the whole panel. Same thing with the door here. There's a little bit of a gash and a bend, so hopefully we can just bend that back out and not have to replace the whole door. Moving towards the back, the trunk, again, not too bad. It's a little bit banged up, but we can probably replace everything. Third brake light doesn't work, so we're gonna have to replace that or fix it. Tail light cracked, that's gonna have to get replaced as well. Opening the trunk, it's a bit of a mess interior-wise, but overall, I mean, nothing too bad. Moving to the top is actually in pretty good condition, but this glass is not attached. So we're gonna have to figure out how to reseal this, either replace the top, or we're just gonna run a hard top for the entire time, which is totally fine with us. Also, rear driver's side door is a little bit banged up, but I mean, nothing we couldn't repair ourselves. Other than that, the condition of the exterior, not bad, minus the passenger side fender and bumper. That should be pretty easy to replace. So next, we're gonna go ahead and move on into the engine bay and point out everything wrong with that.
Hey everyone, let's go ahead and jump into the engine bay. This engine actually looks pretty good for 205,000 miles. Well, except for intake box is kind of loose, flapping around. We are missing some trim pieces. Our oil dipstick's broken. And this right here might look stock. The PCV valve is clogged up a little bit, so we're gonna go ahead and replace that and give a nice flow to the heads. And we pulled the spark plugs out. Cylinder 1 and 2 actually looks really clean and good. Except for cylinder 3 and 4 actually has a little oil residue, and we hope that it's not going to be a head gasket problem, but we're going to go ahead and dive into it later on and figure that out. So let's go ahead and jump onto the undercarriage and we'll see what's under there.
Moving on to the undercarriage, we noticed that one of the end links on the passenger side is completely disconnected from the sway bar. And for whatever reason, there's a U-bolt joint or whatever holding on to the bottom of the end link. We're not sure why it's there. It doesn't look like that's broken off, but there's something that's ghetto rigged there. Also, the oil pan has a huge leak. We're guessing probably from a rear seal or a crank seal, or maybe the oil pan altogether is leaking a lot of oil. All the ball joints looks like they need to be replaced. I mean, this is a 25-year-old car, so some of them are cracking or already ripped. So we're gonna have to go ahead and address those as well. Other than that, stuff down here, the steering rack looks pretty good, and the rest of the suspension looks all right. All right, moving on to the interior of the car, you can see that the seats have rips in them. There's crumbs and dirt everywhere. I'm pretty sure the coronavirus came from here. There's cracks in the plastic, some of the wiring is pretty messy, and just overall it looked really tired. But it's a Miata and there's not a whole lot of interior to go wrong, but we'll do some refreshing and have some upgrades for it in the future. So the first step to giving the Miata new life was to do an oil change. We put some high mileage oil in there as a placeholder, and we'll probably run some high mileage full synthetic when the car is ready for some more spirited driving. Next, we needed to fix a high idle issue. On Miatas, their throttle bodies have this rubber gasket, almost like RTV, and the tow yard, in an effort to fix an EGR issue, cleaned the throttle body and removed this gasket coating. This caused the throttle body to not seal properly and gave us a really high idle. So we had to replace this with a new used unit. On top of that, the tow yard put an EGR valve from an older Miata in an attempt to fix it, but 96 plus Miatas have an EGR valve with an extra nipple that runs a hose into a solenoid. And without that connection from the EGR to the solenoid, the car throws a check engine light. So we replaced this with the correct ear EGR valve and the issue went away. Alright, so one of the benefits of having a junkyard tow yard Miata is it comes with a battery that does not fit. So let's go ahead and pick up a battery that does fit. Alright, so what I picked up is not a normal car battery. This is actually a tractor battery, but apparently according to a bunch of Miata owners, this fits perfectly fine, is exactly the same size. I did have to buy these terminal adapters to convert it into kind of like an automotive terminal style. So just put those on here and attach everything. But in terms of like cold crank amps, this should be good. It even has some vents that I'll have to find some tubing to be able to allow the battery to vent, since this is in the trunk, and so just in case gases or whatever escape, they don't build up in the trunk. But other than that, this should work, and the greatest benefit is that this was, what, $60 compared to $150 for a Miata battery. So yeah, tried and true. Apparently some people swear by it, so this should be good to go. So let's go ahead and get into the car and see if it turns on. Ah, there we go, much better. Next, we took a look at our drive shaft. And with that, we pulled the old one out. All right, just for reference, here is the new drive shaft, or the new used drive shaft that we got. So you can see it moves freely that way and that way, right? But if you take a look at the one that we pulled out, it moves freely that way. It doesn't move freely that way, and then it also has a bit of play in this movement, so you can see that this is completely trashed. So hopefully this solves about 4 or 5 different vibration, clunking, noise problems. So once we put this in, we'll give it a test drive and see how many problems are fixed. There's a bit of a gash there. Luckily it's not leaking any oil, maybe, from that area, but that's definitely going to have to get replaced. But the sucky thing is that part has to be ordered. So I'm thinking the plan that we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and put the drive shaft in, see if it solves the problems that we're hoping it solves. And then when we replace the open diff with a LSD, since we kind of have to sort of take apart everything again anyway, then we'll go ahead and we'll tackle the seal at that time. All right, we just got back from taking the Miata out on a test drive after installing the drive shaft, and I can just say that everything is perfect now. The car doesn't vibrate anymore, there's no more weird noises, there's no more weird vibrations or clunks or anything like that. So the drive shaft really did fix 4 or 5 different problems in its own right. So really excited, really stoked that things are finally starting to actually go well in the car. So we're just gonna go ahead and keep on going. Next up was draining the sludge out of the diff and the transmission. Then we pumped fresh fluid in, got squirted on, it went in my eye, replaced the old fuel filter, replaced the old engine mounts, replaced the old speedo cable, which fixed that annoying squeaking speedometer issue that we were having, and that was it for now. That'll do it?
Yeah, that'll do it.
Our little Miata was in a fender bender that bent the upper control arm, and that definitely had to be replaced. But while we were in there, we were also going to replace the worn ball joints, tie rods, as well as upgrade the suspension with Coney yellow shocks, ground control springs, and a thicker front sway bar. It sounded like a pretty straightforward job, but those were famous last words. sure if this is really visible, but on the top is a brand new replacement OEM upper control arm bolt, and the one on the bottom is the one that gave us 3 days worth of trouble. You can see the little bit of a bow there, and that's what gave us a lot of trouble. And we had to do some major damage to that upper control arm to get it out. But it is out, so the show will go on. All right, so that came out pretty easy, and this is on the driver's side that did not get hit. And look, I can hand loosen this compared to the other side, because that's how it's supposed to go. Just like that. That's how it's supposed to go. So let's go ahead and just continue on the driver's side, replacing right there, the upper control arm, and then also we're gonna replace the shock with our new ground control and Kona yellows. So. All the cotter pins are off, all the castle nuts are off. So now we're just gonna use the ball joint fork. We're just gonna pound these things out. If you can hear us, but there's a giant rainstorm going on. But anyway, old control arm out, old shock and spring out. So we got this side, the driver's side, completely deassembled, and now we're gonna go and put in the aftermarket stuff or the OEM replacement stuff. Hopefully the rest of this goes smoothly, because everything has been difficult, rusted on, parts are in the way, and it's been a bit of a mess, but let's keep going. Tomorrow, because it is actually pretty late right now on a Sunday, so we're gonna go ahead and pick this up most likely tomorrow. So here we go. All right, so right now we're gonna go ahead and get and prepare the coilovers to put onto the car. So we kind of measured the original length of the stock shock system, and that came into about like 17 or 18.
18 and a half on the original.
Yeah.
And then 17 and a half that we adjusted, so we did take about an inch off.
Go from there and see what that's gonna be like.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and take off the top hats on the coilovers, and we're gonna go install our bump stops. But yeah, take it from there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but look at how dry. What, 200,000 miles? 200,000 miles in about 25 years will put you. I think it looks like hard butterscotch candy or something. All right, let's go ahead and get the tie rod tool that we rented. Break this sucker out.
Perfect.
That's the one. That's the one. All right, so the way you kind of use this tool is you take one of these crow's feet, and whichever one fits your tie rod here, right? Just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and mount it in here. And then what you do is you slide it over. You slide it over, and then you put a socket at the other end, and you just twist, and that'll go ahead and loosen this off so we can take it out. Oh my God. There it is, broken. I don't know if you guys can see this, but look at how easily this moves. How loose the steering must have been because of this. And then now we have the new replacement. I can't even do it by hand. So this is going to be incredible how much of a difference in steering feel replacing these are going to be. So even if it's not busted, you probably might want to just do this after, I don't know, 200,000 miles in 30 years. Might be a good idea. Alright, so the sway bar is in. You can see it right there. Comes with the brackets here. And then also I went ahead and installed this sway bar mount brace. So I'm gonna go ahead and show a video from another YouTuber that shows how much this OEM bracket flexes under load. And over time, as this part flexes, they're prone to crack. So putting this brace here actually will prevent that from happening. I'll go ahead and I'll show that video just to show you how much flex really occurs during that. With that, the suspension's all bolted up. New upper control arms, new tie rods, coated yellow shocks, ground control coilover sleeves. It's definitely going to have the Miata sitting and handling pretty. All right, today is an exciting day. I have the wheels in the back. I'm taking them right now to the tire shop to get our new tires mounted. So let's go. Alright, got the tires back and the wheels back, so let's go ahead and head to the shop. Check them out. We are here back at the garage. Got the wheels and the tires lined up here. Check those out. They look great. These are MST Time Attacks. They are 15x8 plus 0. And the tires that we're running are the brand new Falcon Azenis RT660s. These are 225, 45, 15. They're a little bit wide, but obviously because we're doing the wide body, should be no problem. I mean, check out this tread right here. Yeah, these look great off the car. The car's not quite cut yet, but let's go ahead and try to see if we can mount these up just to kind of get an idea of how they look. All right, so the wheels are mounted on the car and they look great. Oh, I'm super stoked. They look so good. They're definitely poking though. But that's all right, because we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put the wide body flares on it soon enough. These look amazing. I mean, just look at that stance on it. All right, so let's go ahead and just continue. All right, so today I wanna get started and cut the rear bumper. Just to show you, here's the bumper. Just to show you what I mean. This is the rear support, and you can see those are the 4 that you need to pop off, and then the whole thing will just drop. There is one cable, I believe, on the driver's side that you'll need to go ahead and make sure you remove, but other than that, pretty straightforward. So the next step we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and remove this rear support here, and just like that, the bumper support is separated from the bumper cover. So we can go ahead and start prepping to get ready to cut it. Alright, so the bumper is cut. We did the best we could to get it as straight as we could using power tools, but obviously they're not precision tools, so we did the best that we could. We basically used this reciprocating saw here to do a majority of the cuts. along the edge, and then we finished it off with the angle grinder and a grinding wheel to kind of smooth it out, and then also to do our best to kind of fix the jaggedness and kind of get it straightened out. So I think it looks pretty good, and then let's go ahead and check it out how it looks mounted and see if there's anything else that we need to even out. Alright, so the bumper is cut and we just put it back on, and I think it looks pretty good. So we're gonna go ahead and continue on the rest of the body, and hopefully once everything is done, we can see how it looks. So we are going to fit our $40 eBay lip. This is the bump that's gonna go on the car. So what I did was I lined up the corner holes and just zip tied them to hold them into place, because right now I'm just trying to dry fit this lip just to see how it looks. Already drilled in a couple of self-tapping screws, again, just to hold it. Probably for a more permanent solution, I'll drill some holes and we'll use actual like nuts and bolts, and then also some like double-sided tape. Again, just trying to mount it up. Fitment's pretty good. You can kind of see on the sides here. Focus. It actually lines up pretty good. And same on the other side. So I'm gonna go ahead and just continue putting some more self-tapping screws, and then we'll get this mounted on the car and just see how it all looks. So the bumper and the lip are loosely on, and you can see it looks really good. And I also mocked the fender flares on it as well, and just seeing it with the wheels here and the tires, oh man, it's all coming along real good. As far as fitment goes, I'd say that this was like 95 or so percent. The fitment was pretty good, except there were some parts like around right here where it's not like 100% lined up, but other than that it looks pretty good, unless I really point it out and you know, you take a hard good look and you know exactly where to look. But I'd say all said and done, it's definitely worth $40. So I'll go ahead and I'll leave a link down below just in case you guys want to grab the exact same one. This is the GV style from eBay. But yeah, man, everything put together is starting to look real good. So we're just gonna go ahead and continue sort of mocking and dry fitting the rest of the body panels together. Alright, so we got the rear spoiler mocked up on the trunk, and we marked the holes where we want to drill them. Probably hard to see on camera, but they're there. And so we're just going to go ahead and start drilling and mounting this onto the trunk. just kidding. I am throwing out these rubber well nuts. They are trash. So I went ahead and bought these metal riv nuts. A lot better. They're really simple. They have this rigid edge here to prevent spinning, and this is just the proper way to do it. So if I were to do this all over again, I wouldn't have even bothered with those rubber ones and just have went straight to these metal ones. The tool itself is like 30 bucks, and a pack of 50 is like another like $5 or $7. So I'll leave links in the description below for those. But yeah, if you're gonna do this, just go straight to these, don't even bother with the rubber ones. So this is the tool that you're gonna use to install the riv nuts. Basically what happens is you screw one of these onto the threaded adapter, and then this pack comes with a bunch, some metric and some standard. And essentially what happens is when you squeeze these handles together, it makes the riv nut mushroom, and this is kind of what holds it onto the trunk. Super easy to use. I'll leave a link down below for you guys to go ahead and check it out. But yeah, again, go straight for this. Don't even bother with the rubber stuff. All right, you can see we already installed a couple onto the trunk already. Unfortunately, we had to go up a couple sizes. This is an M8. We were originally using M5s just because these metal riv nuts are a bit larger than the rubber ones, but much easier to install. Already pre-drilled some of the holes larger so that these will fit. So now let's go ahead and just redo the trunk with the proper riv nuts. Okay, so we redid the bolts in the rear wing. Those puny little M5s weren't going to cut it, so we drilled bigger holes and we got M8s with washers to kind of fill the gaps. Some of it is a bit uneven, as you can see, but the reason why is when we drilled bigger holes, it kind of offsetted the center of the hole. So got the washers on to make it work. Overall looks a lot better with the M8 bolts in. So that's gonna do it for the rear wing. Looks pretty good. All right, now is the time that we are gonna install the wide body fender flares. Pretty nervous for me, I've never done this before, but here's the plan of attack. So the fender flare is mounted up where I want it to be as best as I can get it. And what I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna go ahead and drill the holes for the riv nuts first. So that way, if I need to take it on and off, then I know exactly where it'll line up. And then once that's done, we'll go ahead and we'll outline where the fender sits and probably where I'm going to end up cutting it. What I'm thinking of doing is, since it's pretty flush, what we're probably going to do is measure a line about an inch up, and that should give us plenty of clearance for wheel travel, suspension travel, and also not having to cut more material than we need to. So let's get started. So we got our holes drilled for where we want the over fenders to be mounted. And then we went ahead and we measured roughly where we want our cut line to be. And so what we're gonna do here now is we're going to go ahead and we're gonna cut pie cuts, vertical lines up to our cut line. That way when we're cutting across, we don't have to worry about staying straight all the way across a long piece. It's just, you know, we just have to be straight for, you know, a couple inches at a time. And then hopefully that'll give us a little bit of leeway to be able to, like, you know, straighten out if we need to straighten out if we're getting a little bit crooked. So let's go ahead and start cutting our vertical lines. All right, so we did our vertical cuts up to our guideline. So now let's go ahead and try to start cutting across and get this bit out. So the fender is cut. I actually really like that vertical line pie cut methodology. It actually made it really easy to kind of stay on the line that we outlined. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get the grinding wheel on the angle grinder and just kind of smooth out these edges a little bit. But there it is, pretty much first fender done. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put on a slightly larger drill bit, and we're gonna go ahead and enlarge these holes so that we can fit our metal riv nuts in. All right, it's on, wheels on, dropped it, everything's bolted in place. All right, just kidding. I contacted Carbon Miata, who makes these over fenders, and they confirmed that we mounted them backwards. So we put the rears on the fronts and the fronts on the rears. Luckily, only the fronts were bolted down, and in our defense, they actually fit quite well and lined up, but they were incorrect. So we have to do them again. The problem is we already drilled all of the holes and even took a little bit too much of this fender off. So now we are in repair and fix mode. But step one is we're gonna have to remove all the riv nuts that are already in there. And you can see on this fender, I was able to actually drill these out with a drill, just get a bit slightly larger, and they popped right out. But on the other side, I've been kind of fiddling around with it, and unfortunately, they spin when we start drilling, so we're gonna have to get an angle grinder and actually shave these off. All right, so here's the step one of the process that we're gonna go ahead and use to fill this part where that I cut way too much off of. And we have this, basically this like mesh body patch. And what's this gonna do is it's going to provide us a little bit of a structure so that we can then lay over a Bondo that is fiberglass reinforced, and then that's going to give us our strength. And then we're going to go ahead and put regular Bondo over that, and that's what's going to give us kind of like our actual body panel back. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this to size, and we're going to just basically get it in place so that we can lay that fiberglass reinforced Bondo over. All right, so next we're gonna go ahead and try to mix the Bondo gold filler, and this is what we're gonna use to actually smooth the panel out. So let's give it a shot. so the Bondo's looking pretty decent. I'm hoping it's good enough. I might need like glazing putty again just to fill in some of the small pinholes. But also what I noticed is that we actually need to cut a little bit more of the fender because now the fender flares sit a little bit higher. So we're gonna go ahead and bust out the angle grinder and chop off a little bit more. All right, so we had to trim a little bit more of the fender, but this is kind of roughly, jacked up the wheel, this is kind of roughly where I'd imagine like full travel might be. So I might actually bring in this part just a tad bit more and then maybe kind of shave down this little tab right here. But overall, looks like we have plenty of clearance. So let's go ahead and just make those adjustments right now. So we got the fender flare mounted, looks good. I am confident that this is the correct way to do it. The only thing that I noticed is that I don't know if it's the quality of the riv nuts that we have or the quality of the bolts, but just be cautious that when you're actually doing this, that the angle of the fender actually matters. I noticed especially with this one that if I didn't screw it in at the right angle that it was drilled, that the bolt wasn't lining up properly, it wasn't threading in, but everything's in. It looks good, so we're gonna go ahead and do the driver's side and hopefully it goes well. Yay, we got the driver's side fender flares mounted up. That one actually went out without a problem. Everything screwed in a lot better. Don't know why, but I'm glad it is in there. So that means basically the fronts are mounted. They're done. Now we just got to move on to the rears, which is the part I'm scared about, but I'm feeling good. Let's ride this momentum and keep on going. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start on the rear fender flares. We're gonna go ahead and use the same process that we did for the fronts, because definitely by now we have a lot of practice with it. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna drill our, just kind of like our pilot holes for where it's gonna be mounted, and then we're just gonna measure the distance that we want to cut up, and we're gonna do the pie cuts and then go across. So hopefully that goes smoothly, so let's give it a shot. Okay, so we got the initial cut in. Looks pretty good. It's a little difficult because there are certain areas that are a little bit thick that the angle grinder couldn't quite get all the way into, but we were able to get it cut out pretty evenly. You can see here that what's different from the front and the rear is that there's this inner fender well that's actually metal as well, as opposed to just being like a plastic liner. And so the plan is you have to kind of seal this so that water obviously doesn't go up behind the panel. So what we're gonna try, since I don't know how to weld yet, is we're gonna try either JB Weld, like traditional JB Weld epoxy, or we're gonna try to use the steel weld, which is like a JB Weld like putty. Since this isn't like a high stress point, I think the putty would be easier and should be able to work to seal up the rear quarter panel. So I got some, we're gonna go give it a shot and see how well it does. So we started putting the steel weld putty to seal up the rear quarter panel, and I kind of like it so far. Reason being is that it takes only a few minutes for this to actually harden, as opposed to like real JB Weld that takes about like an hour or so before it actually hardens. The only thing is that there are some little gaps here. So it probably is going to take a couple of tubes to do one side. So I'm going to just go ahead and get another small section of putty and then fill in these holes that are left here, and then just kind of continue all the way down until it's sealed. But I do like how quick it hardens, and so it's a little bit easier to work with. All right, so here's a little bit of a close-up of how we are sealing the rear quarter panel. So we're using steel weld, JB Welds like putty. Essentially what you do is you just kind of knead this like Play-Doh like substance, and we are using it to fill in these kind of like openings between the fender liner and the rear quarter panel. And after we use this putty, we'll go ahead and we'll kind of like fill in all the cracks that get left with quick weld, and that should seal our rear quarter panel from any moisture getting in behind it. I I want to say about 2 sticks of putty per side will get you done, and 1 small package of a quick weld to kind of seal the rest of the cracks up. So just in case you're trying to do something like this without any welding, you just need about 4 for the entire car, 4 sticks of putty, and then 1 container of, or 1 small little like tube container of the quick weld. So let's go ahead and just finish up this side, and we'll also get the quick weld on there to fill in the rest of the cracks. So we went ahead and we covered all the cracks and seams that we can find that the putty didn't quite get with the JB Weld quick weld. So everything should be all sealed up pretty good, and now we'll go ahead and we'll just let this dry before mounting the fender flares and getting everything set up. We are replacing practically the entire driveline on the Project Miata. That includes the transmission, the clutch, and an LSD differential, so stick around. This is where we accidentally sheared off a bit of the bolt on the Cat just because it was so seized up that I had to use an impact gun, and that kind of tore it off. But it does look like we can still use the bolt, so we'll just worry about that when we cross that path. All right, but the exhaust is off. We had to kind of wiggle it through because on the 96s and up, I believe they have this underbracing that gets in the way when you're trying to remove the exhaust. It's a little bit hard to see, but basically all the accessories off the transmission have been unbolted. We have the slave cylinder removed. We have the starter that's unbolted. We had a couple of wires and clips for the reverse switch or the neutral switch or something like that, but there's 2 of them. Those are off. And basically the only things that we have left to do is to loosen the transmission bolts that actually bolt the transmission to the engine. And then we should do one last quick check, but we should be good to pull the transmission after that. Of course, after we drain the fluid and whatnot, but yeah, almost there. So let's just keep going. All right, so we got most of the transmission bolts loose. Only weird worry is that the top 2 transmission bolts were pretty hand tight. So I'm hoping that we're not going to find any surprises to maybe the previous owner did some shady ass clutch work or something like that. But transmission bolts are loose. Let's go ahead and remove them and drop the transmission because we got everything else loose. All right, so we're about to pull off the PPF so that we can drop the transmission. This little insert that went here where this bolt is, this gave us a bunch of trouble, about maybe 1 to 2 days worth of trouble, because sometimes they can get rusted in. And what you're supposed to do is there's these little slots that, you know, you're supposed to be able to put a pry bar in between and pull it down, but it wasn't working in our situation. And we tried and use flathead screwdrivers to try to knock it out and loosen it, but that wasn't working. So I went and bought an actual chisel, and this was able to fit in between the slot, but it was thick enough so that as we drove it through, it would pop the insert out. So if you're having trouble with this, I recommend getting an actual chisel to help remove it. So just a couple pounds here and there, and it will slowly work its way out. So with it out now, we have these 2 original bolts back in, because there are 2 inserts on the top of the PPF that we're just going to hammer to knock those inserts loose. And once that's gone, the PPF is pretty much loose, and we can push it out of the way. James.
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay, so the transmission is out, but it is super dirty. Pretty sure that the leak that we were having is coming from the transmission. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and degrease the crap out of this transmission and get it all nice and cleaned up. Alright, transmission is power washed, is clean. I mean, as best as we can get it. The gunk was on there pretty good, but we did our best to clean it. It's a lot better than it was before. So now we'll go ahead and start replacing the seals that we need to. Small issue that we ran into, unfortunately. The DIY video that I saw, basically how they told us to get this seal out of this clutch cover on this transmission was to basically get a screwdriver flathead, put it just behind the seal, and then pound it out with a hammer. But doing that resulted in this surface getting gouged. I asked online, and people are saying that this is actually okay because the oil doesn't start from there. It actually has to get pretty far past the seal before it'll start getting to that surface. So I was advised that it'll still work, just got to put some RTV gray gasket maker on here, and that should be okay. But it gets me nervous because there's seals like this all over the engine that we need to do as well. And so far people are saying the best way to get this out is to basically burn it out, to torch out this seal. So I'll leave a link to a video that shows how to do that. I mean, I didn't do it that method. I'm not going to. But I mean, the alternative is obviously scoring the surface here, which I don't know if it's a good idea. But anyway, let's get some gasket on this and continue replacing the seals in the transmission. right, so we took out a couple of the clutch bolts or the pressure plate bolts here. I used an impact gun, which you could basically do super easy. But if you don't have an impact gun, the thing is that if you try to get a wrench here and try to unscrew it, it's just going to keep spinning. So the trick is what you do is you put a transmission bolt back in, use a pry bar or a flathead screwdriver, and you just kind of notch it in one of these slots here in the teeth of the flywheel, and that'll allow you to get a wrench in, and then you can actually just break the bolts that way and move them that way. So let's go ahead and get the pressure plate off and get going on this clutch change. Alright, so clutch and flywheel is out. This is the old, worn stock clutch that's going to get replaced with something with more torque. And we got to go get the flywheel resurfaced, and so we can install it in, but it's all out. Oh my god, okay, so the rear main seal is finally out. That was a bit of a pain to get to. I bought this seal puller that is supposed to make everything super easy, and essentially what it does is that you fit it in between the seal and you get behind it, and you use that little plunger right there, and it kind of gives you leverage to pull the seal out. But unfortunately what was happening was it was bending, so I wasn't giving enough leverage to pull it out. What it was able to do was it was able to kind of bow out the seal a little bit, and eventually what I ended up doing was I ended up getting a screwdriver and getting it into kind of like these little openings that seal puller made, and they're just using that as leverage to kind of pry a couple times until the seal popped out. Now you have to be really, really careful, because with the seal off, these surfaces right here, you do not want to scratch, otherwise you're going to get leaks. So if you do end up having to use a screwdriver to get your seal out, make sure you don't, go too far that you're touching a surface. I basically stuck the screwdriver in just enough, kind of midway through into the seal, and then just use that a couple times to pry it out. But the seal is out, and all we got to do next is get the new seal in. Obviously I want to clean it up a little bit, but yep. Alright, rear main seal is in. I think I got it pretty flush. It looks flush to me, and I'm hoping that it is, so that we don't get any leaks. But just because, this is my first time, so I'm not 100% sure if this is flush enough, but it looks like it to me, and I really can't get it in anymore, so I'm just gonna hope for the best. Double check it one last time, but yeah, basically hope that I did it correctly. Alright, so I messed up, and I got a little bit greedy when I was putting the rear main seal on the first time around, and I thought it was flush, but I just wanted to make sure, get a little bit more in there, and I drove it in way too far. So what I should have done in the first place is I should have just gotten this. This is a 3D printed rear main seal tool, and this will take the guesswork out of getting the rear main seal on. Basically what it does is, this is the new rear main seal here, is when the seal is inside the engine, put this over, you put in a few of the clutch bolts, and you just torque them down lightly, and this will push the seal in evenly. And then since this lip right here is wider than the seal itself, it'll stop at the block and get you the perfect depth. This will take the guesswork out of it. And again, if you're doing this on a Miata or any car that offers such a tool, just do it. It's not worth risking not being able to know if you put the seal in perfectly or not, or risk just putting it too far in or whatever like that. So let's go ahead and get this mounted on and get it installed so we can finish the rest of the transmission work. All right, just finished using the tool. Super easy to do, and it looks like perfectly flush. Should have totally done this from the beginning. It was super easy. But I'm glad that's done and we can keep on going and finishing putting the transmission back in. Alright, so we got the new flywheel back from the shop. They cleaned it up real good. I didn't even recognize it when I went to go pick it up. But yep, it's all resurfaced, it's all good to go. So we're just gonna go ahead and get this mounted so we can finish the clutch. So we got the transmission in, and I didn't get it on camera because I actually had no idea how long I was going to be struggling with it, but we got it in basically without the use of the transmission jack because it was just too tall and it was in the way, and I couldn't really line up the shaft with the hole in the clutch. So basically what we did was we just ended up doing what you probably see a lot of people do on video, is they just basically manhandle the transmission in and like bench press it, which is essentially what we did. Had a friend support it from the back. I lifted it up and just kind of guided it in. Once it was in, we got one quick transmission bolt in with a couple of threads, and then from there just screw the rest of the stuff in. But it's in, transmission is in, so let's go ahead and plug up all the accessories and get all the bolts in and continue. Okay, so we're gonna go and do the differential swap. We're gonna drop our open differential unit and we're gonna swap in the LSD, the OEM Torsen LSD unit that we got. Since the PPF is already loose because we're doing the transmission at the same time, that's already done. And before we can drop the differential, we just need to pop off the axles and then we can drop it down. To give us a little bit more room to pop off the axles, we're gonna loosen the top nut here on the upper control arm, and that'll give us a little bit more room to pop the axles out of the differential and get them out of the way so that we can drop it down. Forgot to mention, but actually you need to also remove this lower bolt here on the lower control arm in addition to the upper control arm bolt, and that'll let the hub pivot down so that you can get enough clearance to pull the axle all the way out of the diff. Alright, so we finally got the axle out. It was really, really rough in there. Broke a flathead screwdriver trying to get it out, but just be persistent and just keep prying it out with a lot of force and hopefully it'll pop out. So let's go ahead and do the other one. Alright, good news. We got the axles out of the diff first try, no problem whatsoever. Did not even stress on this. Very, very simple to do. Nope, it was a giant pain in the butt. Stubbed a lot of fingers, bent a lot of pry bars, but it's off. Screw this, I hope I never have to do this again. All right, let's keep going. All right, now that we got the transmission all bolted up and everything bolted up down there, we're gonna go ahead and start replacing the worn out bushings and other worn out things with the shifter. Oh, that's not good. Huh. There was no fluid in here anyway. Well, that makes my job easier. All right, so the shifter is in and we filled it with fluid. You kind of want it, I think it was like 90 cc's or full, but not quite overflowing. So that's kind of what we went with. And you don't want to tighten these 3 bolts down too quick, or too much rather, because then it'll get really hard to shift. And overall, the feeling is, it is a lot more effort to shift, but feels like a lot more stout of a shifting feel. And the way I did it is basically just kind of like hand tighten, and that was just enough pressure to get a nice firm feel, but you know, still be able to shift. And we're also going to go ahead and replace this like heat bushing. As you can see, it just got completely worn through, and so we're tossing this one out and installing this brand new one that has no rips. And while we're in there, we're going to go ahead and replace this old, tired, ratty shift boot with this Corgi shift boot. Something a little bit nicer. All right, we got the shifter in, we got the shift boot, the Corgi shift boot in, and I think it looks pretty good. What's funny is I actually have a shirt that is the exact same pattern, so I think it's kind of funny that it matches, but also got a Corgi, so that works out too. And all we got to do is get some fluids into the diff and the transmission, and we should be good to go and to drop it. So we're also going to do a really quick install of some new adjustable end links because one of the original end links popped out of its bushing. So good excuse to go ahead and just replace them. Makes sense anyway, we got the upgraded front bar, so this should be good. Okay, front adjustable end links are installed. Okay, today we are going to be tearing apart the front of the engine to replace timing belt, cam seals, crank seal, and a bunch of other stuff. So we are going to start that by pulling the airbox and emptying out the coolant from the radiator. Alright, so we're making some pretty good progress. We got the radiator out, we got the thermostat out. There's a little bit of corrosion in there, but we'll probably run some coolant flush to get that all situated out. Valve cover is off. I'm gonna take that home because I am going to paint that. And yeah, let's keep this going. Doing pretty good. Okay, today is another day. It is so hot that it's really making me move super slow. And it's my first time doing this, but so far we removed the accessory belt, the AC belt, radiator, and all the cooling stuff. And the next thing that we gotta tackle is the timing belt. So we got the car up to top dead center. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and lock the cam gears so I can take or I'm sorry, lock the cam so that I can take off the cam gears and start replacing these seals. So let's get into it. Fuck yeah! Good news! We got the crank pulley bolt off. Basically, we tried breaker bar with an extension, and unfortunately, I guess we couldn't lock the crank enough that it just wasn't working. It wasn't even bending the breaker bar. But last ditch effort, we took off the sway bar, put an impact gun to it, came off in like 2 seconds. So that's good news. So let's keep going. Okay, front crank seal is out. That one was a little bit more harder than the cam seals, mostly because the positioning, and also I just think they're a lot more seated in than the cam seals were, but it's out. I did unfortunately scratch a little bit of a surface, but I don't think it actually doesn't appear to be, and luckily it isn't any of the sealing surfaces that the seal was in. So that's good, but man, it was really in there. It actually started to bend the pick, so I actually had to bend the pick a couple times to reshape it. But I don't know if you could see it from here, but like right around this area, there's a couple of scratches that I had when I was trying to get some leverage to take it out. But again, luckily, it doesn't appear to be on any of the sealing surfaces of the seal, so we should be okay and good to go. So now that all the seals are out, we just gotta put them in. So let's just keep going on to the next step. Okay, so water pump is back on, the thermostat housing is back on. It was a big pain in the ass, especially this part of the housing right here, the side of the water pump. It's almost impossible to really get any good grip on the screws there because the power steering pump is in the way. So I struggled with that for a little while, but that is in. Also, the bolts that attach the water pump to the block, they only require about like 15 to 20 foot-pounds of torque, which is really, really, really light. And I guess it's so light that you almost might miss it when you're torquing it down with a torque wrench. I actually snapped one of these bolts off. So luckily, though, I was able to get a bolt that was the exact same length, exact same thread. The only difference is instead of being a 12, it's a 10. But everything fits the right length, no threading or anything like that. So luckily we were able to continue despite that little setback. But water pump is in and all the other seals are in, including the crank seal and the 2 camshaft seals, if I didn't mention that already. So we're just going to keep going. I believe next is we're going to start getting the belts back on and buttoning everything up. Yay, more issues. So despite my best efforts, the car is out of timing just a little bit. So before I get the timing belt on, I'm gonna go ahead and try to get things lined up properly. So here we go. Okay, I think we are timed. We got our crank Dorito in the Dorito hole lined up on the bottom, and we counted our 19 ribs in between the cam marks, and everything looks good. You could also see the marks on the cam gears are lined up with the marks on the backing plate. We are in time now. That was a group effort. That was teamwork for sure. The homies definitely helped out with that one. But yeah, everything should be good to go, so we can continue bolting everything back together. Okay, while we had the engine kind of open anyway, we went ahead and replaced the cam angle sensor O-ring. That one was definitely leaking. I saw it dripping a little bit when I was taking out the transmission. But forewarned, it's a little bit of a bitch like everything else on this car to get to. What ended up actually working really well was getting some sort of like flexible long socket wrench like this. And it allows you to fit behind, break the 12 here. And there's also a 12 bolt here that holds on like a bracket right here, sorry. And then this again, because of the angle and its low profile, was actually able to get me the clearance and the distance I needed to break it off. I'll leave a link in the description below for this type of tool. Super handy for many, many things because it's low profile, but it also has the length, so it's almost like a mini breaker bar. Anyway, second problem after that was couldn't quite get the actual angle sensor to leave its home, basically, because a bunch of stuff was in the way, so I ended up just changing the O-ring while it was in this area. And then popped it back on. Don't forget to mark with a scratch before you remove anything your angle sensor location, so that way you don't have to fuck with timing. Put it back in together, but yep, we replaced it real quick. It was super easy other than that, and yep. Okay, so we already got the stock radiator out because we were doing the timing belt and water pump and everything like that. So this is a good opportunity to go ahead and install a aftermarket aluminum radiator since Miatas have a tendency to overheat. So let's get that installed. Okay, we have transferred over the fans and accessories from the OEM radiator onto our aftermarket radiator. I will say it's a 98% fit. You're gonna have to do a little bit of drilling. For example, I had to drill a little bit bigger hole here, here, and here to get the fans to fit. And also these kind of like rubber, there you go. These kind of rubber stoppers here also had to drill just a tad bit larger for them to fit, but not bad for considering the price is like a third of a aluminum radiator elsewhere. But yeah, so everything's mounted onto the new radiator. So let's go ahead and fit it into the car. Okay, everything is buttoned up. The radiator is in. We got our water temp sensor adapter plugged in. Timing looks good, checked everything. There was a bit of a leak going on at the thermostat housing, but we just tightened those down a lot more and it seems to have stopped the leak. I'm gonna have to probably pay attention to this over the next week or so as I'm putting some miles to break in the clutch, just to keep an eye out to see if I'm leaking any more coolant. It doesn't seem that way. I mean, there's some droplets, but I can't like catch it in the act of leaking. I could just kind of see evidence of it, so I'm hoping that's just leftover water from when it was leaking a lot. But again, I'm gonna keep an eye on it and make sure that everything is buttoned up and good. Also, we got our water temperature gauge installed. Show you that. And there we go. Very good. Pretty easy install. I apologize for not recording this. I forgot my camera the day before when installing everything, and I just kind of wanted to get everything buttoned up, but everything is in there. Pretty easy install. Basically, I just tapped into the back of the radio. That made wiring a lot easier. So if you're trying to do a gauge, you know, probably hooking it up to your aftermarket radio and just kind of leeching off of those connections is probably the best way to do it. But we got water temp, we got a temperature, set the gauge to 230 degrees Fahrenheit. I believe that is the absolute limit you want to reach before you kind of want to slow down and let it cool off. But other than that, you know, temp's good. There was no overheating. Everything should be good. Okay, we are going to change out this steering wheel for this fancy Sparco steering wheel. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the old steering wheel, remove the airbag, and swap in our short hub and quick release. Okay, so here is the stock clock spring. Don't turn too much, otherwise you might ruin it. Trace the wires all the way back, and you can see there are those two plugs, the blue and the orange. We're gonna have to unplug that. I believe the orange one is our horn, and the blue one is gonna be the airbag sensor, I wanna say. But yeah, you're gonna have to kind of separate these two wires from the rest of the steering column loom, and just unplug those and take them out. Okay, to get the horn to work, there is this orange plug that we unplugged earlier, and we're just gonna snip it here. It looks like somebody already replaced this wheel before because of this little crimp tool right here, but you're gonna cut it off, and we're going to extend that wire, and we're gonna plug this back in under the dash, and this is going to run all the way up to our new steering wheel so that we can use a horn. Okay, so we got the horn wire, and we used one of the old clock spring screws that we're not going to use anymore. And then also we're going to use this kind of like extension wire. A lot of people use a paper clip, but I had this really tough copper wire instead. And what that is going to do is that'll make contact with the back of the short hub here. And as it stays connected, that is going to give you your electrical connection for your horn. So let's go ahead and get the short hub in and continue with the install. Alright, the steering wheel is installed. It looks great. Quick disconnect. Mad race car status. Feels good, can still reach everything. You know, I never actually had an aftermarket steering wheel before, so this is actually pretty dope. But yeah, I'm super stoked. The install wasn't so bad and pretty dang good. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is this soft top has to come out. It's not going to fit with the roll bar that we got here. So we're going to yank this out, which is fine. I was probably going to run a bikini top anyway. So that's going to come out. Most likely the passenger seat is going to go out as well because the driver's seat leave in just in case I need to drive it around. Still have a coolant issue that I need to figure out, so I still need to drive the car. Okay, so now we have the top up, we're inside of the car. It really helps if you have your seats removed to give you a lot of room. I have the passenger seat removed for the time being, so that's super convenient. We got the trim off the side of the car that exposes the 3 bolts, or nuts rather, that hold the soft top frame onto the body of the car. And I already went ahead around and took out all of the clips that hold the carpet to the soft top. And there's a bunch of 10mm, I believe, bolts that hold on these rails, rain rails and everything like that on the soft top that we're just gonna go ahead and take all of them off right now. Okay, soft top is off. Top tip, make sure you wear a mask because it is dusty and there's all kinds of nasty ass stuff that's probably sitting in your 30-year-old Miata. We got a bunch of rust here, so we're gonna have to clean that up just a little bit, but it's okay because it's gonna be covered with carpet anyway, but the top is off, so that's gonna be a huge load off. I think next we're probably just gonna pull the panels and some seat belts and other stuff and continue putting the roll cage on. Adopted the darkness. I was born in it, molded by it.
I haven't seen light until I was
diddled by it. Cool. We got the roll bar dry fitted in. Definitely cut my hand on this area here, so if you're doing this, be careful for yourself. So the wires were a bit of a pain to get out of the way because the roll bar only just fits into under the rear shelf here. So it was a bit of a tight fit, but with some friends, I think we struggled with it for like 15 minutes. It wasn't so bad. The second thing that we're gonna have to do after this is the ECU bracket. I mean, I already did it, but we had to kind of make a cut here so that it could fit the roll bar bracket here. Not too bad, just took the angle grinder to it. 4 Phillips head screws holds this left side bracket off. So just modify it as needed. There's a stud behind here that this bracket used to mount up to, so we're gonna have to either shave that off or cut that off so that it doesn't interfere with the bracket here. And yeah, I think we're ready to start bolting everything in so that we can start drilling the holes and mounting the backing plates. That's probably gonna be the second toughest thing about this job, so let's get into it. Okay, update. What have I done so far off camera? It was a couple of hours just kind of struggling getting wires out of the way and making sure the roll bar was lined up, so I didn't want to put that on camera really because it's nothing interesting. But let me just put you into kind of what done since. So seatbelt, right? So for this particular roll bar, all we did was take out the original OEM bolt here and loosely, like tool tight or hand tight, a little bit more than hand tight, I'd say tool tight, nice and snug, the roll bar that bolts into the original seatbelt bottom bolt. So we got that in, so that kind of lined everything up and is gonna hold the roll bar in place while we start to do our drilling. So the car is jacked up. As you can see, wheel is off, and this is on both sides. Double check and confirm that you are not pinching any wires. You do not want any of your wiring harnesses to get cut by the cage. So where am I? Okay, so the first holes that we're going to be drilling are for the back brackets. According to the instructions, we're going to go ahead and drill the holes for those first and get them bolted down before we drill these bottom 3 here and tighten everything down. So the trick is, they said that if you had an angle drill, you'd be able to drill from the top, which is obviously the easiest and best solution. I have an angle drill that I bought hoping that it would make my job a little bit easier, but that wasn't the case. Look at this angle, you can't even get anything straight through, so it was pretty much useless. I would probably say if you had a 12-inch 3/8 drill bit, then it would be a little bit easier because you just kind of come up from the top. But the alternative solution is what you do is you get a hole punch, or a center punch rather, and I don't know if you can see, but that bolt right there, that's the one that I ended up center punching, and the metal's pretty thin, so if you give it a good couple whacks, you'll be able to get a pretty decent indentation from the top. Then is you look for an indentation that's coming down, and you'll be able to see it. It's pretty obvious, and that's pretty much where your hole is lined up. So you take your drill and just as best as you can, nice and slow so it doesn't walk off center, drill your first hole using that indentation as a marker. And then once that's drilled in, they recommend that you throw a bolt in and tighten it down pretty snug with one of the backing plate brackets. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the rest of the holes through the bottom here, because we can actually fit a drill through here, and we're going to drill upwards, and that is going to give us our holes for the rest of this mounting point here. Okay, so we got both rear plates bolted in. It's a lot easier with a friend, so I suggest you do that. But we got the plates bolted in, and so now the next step, and what we're going to do is we're going to slightly loosen these so that the bar kind of adjusts itself according to the instructions. And then once that's loosened up, we're going to tighten the bolts on the area right there where the seat belts bolt in. Once those are tightened down to spec, then we'll retighten the backing plates back up to spec. And then we get to do and drill the 3 remaining holes, but these are super easy ones, so let's get to it. Okay, roll cage is bolted in. We got all our holes drilled. Everything's all buttoned down. All we gotta do now is clean up the wiring to make sure nothing is out of the way and secure and everything like that, while we continue with, you know, getting the seats in and the rest of the interior in. But I will say this, it's not too bad of an install process, but you're definitely gonna want to have a buddy to help you. If you don't got no friends, you know, go out there, talk to somebody, make some friends, because it's incredibly helpful to have a second pair of hands when you're doing stuff like drilling and trying to, you know, bolt the bolts down, as well as just like fitting the roll cage in, because the clearances are very, very, very tight. But we got everything in. It's looking really, really, really good. I think it really changes how the car looks. So let's just keep going with the rest of the track prep and the interior. Okay, one of the final things we need to do before we get the rear shelf all buttoned up is we just got to take a little bit off of this cover here. So I got my favorite tool, angle grinder. I'm just gonna cut little pieces off. Okay, so we replaced the fuel pump cover here. We were able to get that from a wrecked Miata at a junkyard because, as you can see, the one that came off the car had completely rusted through. So that was a nice find. Looks a lot better now. Okay, so the final thing that we need to do to finish up this roll bar installation is we got to trim these plastic side pieces here. I already did on the other side, and I can show you in a sec, but basically we're going to cut a straight line down and then also a little bit off of here to fit the bar and then the bottom bracket. As you can see, we already kind of did it here. I mean, it's probably a little bit hard to see, but yep, plastic's in there, and it fits around the roll bar. Now I'm gonna say straight up, you wanna be really careful depending on how you cut it. I guess the best way to do it is if you had like a reciprocating saw, like one of those little tiny ones that you can use to cut it. I think a Dremel would be really too slow, but I mean, if you had a really good Dremel, it probably cuts a lot better because this plastic's pretty thick. I use an angle grinder, but I will say that I got burnt pretty bad. It was like napalm, and it blistered and everything. So be careful, wear gloves, and all that good stuff when you're doing this kind of thing. All right, so next we are going to install the Sparco seats that we got because these OEM seats, they will not do. Okay, so luckily for us, to install these seats is pretty easy because we are using these seat rail adapters made specifically for the Miata and Sparco Sprint seats, and this is going to bolt onto the bottom of the Sparcos, and it's going to allow us to run the OEM sliders. So all we gotta do is bolt these to the bottom, take the rails off of the OEM seat, and then bolt them onto this. Okay, seats are bolted in, although we will have to take them out to drill the hole for the 5th crotch belt, for the anti-submarine belt, but it's locked in, and I kind of really want to sit on it because these were one of the first things we bought when we got the car, but we just decided to put it off until now. So first sit. Oh. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Now I feel real race car-y. So we got the seats bolted in. We got the harnesses bolted in. It was a bit of a pain to get the 5th anti-submarine belt in because you actually have to take the whole seat out while you adjust to make sure you have the right length. So that was a lot of bolting it in, bolting it out. The passenger seat, for some reason, doesn't quite bolt in 100%, but impact gun solves everything, right? So everything's in, belts feel good, position feels good, seat feels good. All that's left is really to take it for a test drive and see the difference that the grip provides. So I'm pretty stoked that that's finally done. Like everything, it was a lot more effort than originally thought, but we're good to go. Track prep is almost ready. So let's just go ahead and keep getting the car ready for our first day out on the track with it. Okay, moving along with the interior and the track prep, we are going to go ahead and put in these OMP pedals. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what we got to do. Okay, after much struggle, the pedals are in. Note to future self, never install aftermarket pedals. I don't think they're gonna be worth it. I had no problems with the original pedals, but I forgot that I already bought these for like 20-something bucks. So I figured I would install it anyway, but it's a pain. There's no room down here, and like the fitment in terms of like the original pedals are so small, you really don't have a lot of room to drill your holes, but they're in. Once the seats are in, I will let you know if the pedals feel good or not. Good thing is, worst case scenario, just take them off. But anyway, they're done. Let's keep going. All right, everyone, change of plans. I really like this Sparco steering wheel, but unfortunately, because there is a dish on it, and you also add in the fact that I put a quick release, what happens is when I sit in the car, it actually ends up, the seat actually ends up in the way, and I keep hitting my elbows on it. Just because of my seating position, I have to sit pretty close. So instead, I got a Nardi personal wheel. I got this Nardi personal wheel here, and you can see there is practically no dish. It's flat, so this should give me about 2 inches back where I can actually sit a little, like have my arms a little bit more extended, and hopefully when I turn, it won't hit the side of the seat anymore. So let's go ahead and switch out our quick release from the Sparco wheel onto our new Nardi personal wheel. Yes! All right, new steering wheel is in. We got our personal Nardi steering wheel in. By the way, quick trivia tip. This steering wheel, I believe, is the steering wheel that they had in the F1 cars in 1990s and the 1980s. Horn button, though, gave me a little bit of trouble because, for whatever reason, didn't come with the negative connection, so I kind of had to jerry-rig my own, like, wire negative. I don't know if it's just mine or if it's other ones, but, I mean, I kind of made it work. It works 90% of the time. That's good enough for me. The positioning is a lot better, giving that extra 2 inches, I guess for lack of a better term, clearance, without being a deep dish. Actually now lets me actually turn the wheel and keep my hands on the steering wheel without hitting my elbows onto the seat. So I'm really happy with that, and I think it still looks pretty good. Okay, so the final step in our track prep is we're gonna install brand new brakes on all 4 corners of the Miata. We got some StopTech sport pads, and we got some blank rotors that are going in. So we're gonna start tearing down the old brakes, get them off, inspect to make sure there's nothing that needs to be replaced or damaged, and swap in our new brakes. Okay, so we got the front brakes off. So this came off of the passenger side, and it's got some even wear, and it's still got some life left, but obviously we're replacing these with better ones. These are the pads that came off of the driver's side. So I remember when I was driving the car a couple times, there was some scraping noises going on. That was a bit suspicious, and it's because if you can see, one of the pads is completely worn down to the metal. So I'm not exactly, again, because we bought this from a junkyard, not 100% sure the entire history of this car as to why this driver's side is so much more worn down than the passenger side. So that kind of concerns me. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to put the new pads in, everything evened out, and just kind of pay attention to the braking as well as the pad wear, just in case we might have an actual issue with the caliper itself. Hopefully not, but yep. So let's go ahead and just continue with the rest of the brake pad install. We got the front brakes installed, and this is the last of the rear brakes that we're doing that I did off camera. The thing is, I probably should have did my research a little bit better because I haven't seen this type of design for the rear brakes before, and I ended up stripping, I don't know if you can see it, I ended up stripping this little star gear here that apparently is used to adjust, I guess, the e-brake. But the good news is it's not mandatory to actually have working rear brakes, so I will replace this as soon as I can replace this. Good news is that we can move on and continue installing the rear brakes. So we're gonna go ahead and do that now. Hey, today is the day we're hitting the track. Okay, so I want to start off by saying that unfortunately the latter half of the track day was not recorded because my GoPro malfunctioned and I did not check up. But the entire day was a complete success. It was my first time out in Buttonwillow and also my first track day in over like 10 years, so there was a lot of learning going on. But we started the day off with a 2-minute and 40-second lap time, which is super slow. Lap 1, or first session, is in the books. Felt pretty good. There was a lot of traffic out there because they bunched us up in the beginning, and I want to apologize for that accidental extra victory lap I did. I totally missed the pit lane coming off of the cool down lap. But anyway, session 1 in the books. Just chilling now. My tummy hurts, and getting ready for session 2. But this event was particularly packed with a lot of people, and you might have been lucky to get maybe 2 to 3 clean laps per session. It also didn't help that I misshifted 3rd to 2nd when I was trying to get into 4th on one of my sessions, but luckily it didn't seem like the engine sustained any damage, and I just cleared the check engine light and never turned it back on, and a compression test later revealed that there was no loss of compression in any of the cylinders, so that's a good sign. Also, later in one of my sessions, throughout the sessions I had a couple of spin outs, but there was one particularly bad one where I got just bathed by a wall of dust. But it also seemed like the car didn't sustain any damage, though I really wish I had a hardtop at that time. By the end of the day, I actually managed a personal best of 2 minutes and 20 seconds, which I think is a fantastic improvement over what we started the day with. And after reviewing the footage, there is a lot of time left that I can improve myself. Not to mention, there's a lot of improvements on the car that can be made as well. But even with that lap time and still a lot of time left on the table, the car performed great. I mean, again, I keep saying it, we passed WRXs, we passed cars with triple the horsepower. You know, and this Miata was built in my garage with maybe 100 horsepower, so I'm very, very, very happy with how it performed. And overall, I would say that this track day was a complete success. And that is a wrap on today. Super proud of the Miata. It held up really, 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 really well. Definitely took some things away from it that we can improve on. Really happy with my lap times as well. I'm pooped, but that was a good day. Okay, so you can kind of see the difference between when we had the resonator in and when we didn't have the resonator in. I think this is going to change the tone of the exhaust, but it's still going to sound good, unlike having a silencer. And it'll keep my old man ears from bleeding. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna try to do this ourselves. This is my first time ever like welding any part of an exhaust together, so I hope, like everything I do, it goes well. But you know, you never learn unless you give it a shot. So we got our adapters and I'm just gonna go ahead and weld these up, measure it up against the exhaust on the car, and make our cuts and make our welds. So let's get to it. So we got the connector pipe welded onto the resonator. They are acceptable welds. Again, I'm a DIYer. I just learned how to barely weld maybe one project ago, so I am satisfied with it. It's not the cleanest thing in the world, but I think it'll do exactly what I need it to do. So the next step is we got to measure how much we need to take off out of the exhaust, make our cuts, then tack weld this in place of it while it's on the car, and then take it off, and then we're gonna go ahead and finish it off. So next step. Okay, so we got our exhaust pipe here that we are going to cut. Already made the measurements. Hopefully they are correct. I know they're correct because I really didn't measure it. And we're going to hopefully be able to fit the resonator into the pipe so that we can make it easier to weld. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the angle grinder, I'm gonna make my chops, and we'll go from there. can't believe it. I am cutting into my $200 exhaust.
Like, wow, okay.
Oh my god, I'm so dumb. Ah, you gotta be kidding me. I did it! It's in. The resonator is welded in. I think it looks good enough. Hopefully it sounds better than it looks. I probably should have measured a little bit better the initial measurements because I had to actually cut the pipe because the length was good, but the angle of the flanges I kind of flubbed on, and that is a rookie mistake, but I am a rookie on this. But overall, I got it to work. It looks good. My welds the second time, or third, or rather the fourth time around, looked a lot better than when I started. And overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm hoping it kills a lot of the drone and makes it sound a lot better. So let's go ahead and get the car off the jacks and put the wheels back on, and let's hear how it sounds. Alright, so recently we took the Miata to the track and it did a really good job. But one of the issues that we have with it is that it is slow. Like really slow. Now this is a Rotrex Supercharger, and it is from a now discontinued Craftsworks Supercharger kit. And I was lucky to actually find one of these brand new and unused from someone who had the unfortunate event of having a baby. Now what's great about supercharging the Miata over turbo is that not only is the installation much easier and simpler to do, superchargers also run a lot cooler. They are a lot less strenuous on an engine, and really there's not a lot to fail on these things. Now this kit in particular is good for about 9 PSI, I believe they say, and that 9 PSI should get our Miata to roughly around 170 to 185 wheel horsepower if we're good. So let's go ahead and get the installation started. They come with an instruction manual. It looks pretty simple and straightforward to do, but as always, that tends to not be the case when I'm doing an install. But let's get started and see how it goes. All right, so to find out, I'm going to use one of those dyno apps on your phone. And apparently, if done right, they can be pretty accurate to the real thing. So let's give that a shot. Wow. Okay, so the Miata keeps on surprising me. We got about 100 horsepower according to the dyno on average over our 3 runs, and that puts it just about roughly in line what it should be, you know, stock out of the factory, considering this car is 200,000 miles on it and also has low compression in cylinder 4. Like, I'm very, very, very happy with this nice little surprise that the Miata is putting down some pretty good base numbers. Really excited to see what the Supercharger is going to put down. So let's hurry up and get that thing in here. Okay, so for step 1, we just gotta do a little bit of prep work. We gotta take the bumper off and get the car up and remove some pieces. So let's go ahead and get that started. Okay, we got the front bumper out, we got the intake out. That is going to do it for section 1 of the install. Section 2 is basically the mounting of the Supercharger. God damn it, just my luck. Seriously, every single time I try to set out something that's supposed to be easy, something stupid prevents me from continuing. So all I got was this parts removed and this one mounting bracket on. And the next step, I needed to get a spacer for the power steering because there's going to be a Supercharger like bracket here that holds on the Supercharger. And that freaking spacer is missing from all the boxes of parts that the person who sold it to me gave it to me. So this part of the install is pretty much on standby because it's Saturday. I gotta wait till Monday, hoping that the manufacturer has a spare part for a kit that they no longer produce, or at least can tell me how I can get around not having this power steering pump spacer. So it's incredibly frustrating, but I mean, that's kind of where we are right now. I'm gonna have to skip. I mean, the good news is that, you know, there's other parts that I can kind of get to while I wait to get an answer of what I can do about that. So probably what we're gonna do next is just get started on the fuel system, which means getting the fuel pump in and getting, you know, maybe mounting the oil cooler and some other stuff. But yeah, let's try to get as much as we can done. Okay, so we just finished putting in the new fuel pump, and right now I'm in the middle of putting in the injectors that comes with the kit. Something interesting to see is that obviously you could see they're completely different size, a lot fatter for the OEM ones, and another interesting bit is that they come with these green O-rings, and the problem that I was having is that it looks like the green O-rings are a little bit too big, so I really couldn't get the injector in without pinching the O-rings, and so what I'm doing is I'm basically reusing the O-rings from the OEM injectors and putting them on the new ones, as you can see in this one, and they're actually popping in pretty easy, so I think that'll be okay, because yeah, with the green ones they're definitely not fitting in. So I'm gonna swap them all out, get them in, continue getting the injectors all set up. Okay, injectors are in. I'm pretty sure they're seated correctly. I got the injectors plugged into the fuel management box. Basically, one plug goes into the injector, and then another plug goes into the original injector harness. And that obviously connects to this box right here. We gotta run this purple power wire, I believe it's to the O2 sensor signal. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that next. Black obviously for ground. And then this yellow tube is where we're going to run a vacuum line. So that's probably going to be a little bit more down the road. But for the most part, that should be it for the fuel system. I hope it works. And next, I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do yet. Probably just gonna mount the intercooler and maybe get started on the Rodrex, their oil system for the Supercharger. I'm not sure yet, but I'm gonna get that stuff wired up real quick and then we'll hop on to whatever step we do next. Okay, I did it. Intercooler is installed, and so is the oil cooler? Yeah, oil cooler for the Supercharger. Oh, tight fit. Bunch of cut fingers and everything like that, but it is in, and it's starting to look really, really good. Like, this car's about to be supercharged, yo. So I think that's going to be it for the day. We'll start sometime this week, you know, after work or whatever like that, to get the rest of it bolted up. Yeah, so we finished the fuel system today. We did, well, at least we just dry fitted the intercooler. I think the next step is probably the hoses for the intercooler, and then the rest, and then also the hoses for the rest of the oil system. And then tomorrow's Monday, so I'm gonna give Craftsworks a call to see what we can do about that power steering spacer that we ran into earlier. The Supercharger mounted up as well. But coming along. Okay, we got our oil lines ran to where we are using them as a placeholder. So you can see we have the in and the out. Just had to funnel those in through here. You can see it's hooked up to the oil cooler. And next we're gonna go ahead and get the plumbing for the intercooler lined up. So let's get into that. Okay, we got the intake manifold throttle body side of the intercooler hooked up. You can see it there, barely just fit. I mean, I'm not too happy with the quality of this kit so far. I mean, it barely fits, and you can even see here on this coupler, it's like kind of pinched, but I mean, that's the best way we got it to fit. Yeah, you can see here we got it hooked up to the intercooler. I haven't tightened down any of the clamps yet. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is how it goes. I guess we'll find out. I apologize for not actually getting any footage of this part on camera. Honestly, you probably would want to see it. A majority of it is just kind of me standing around trying to figure it out. And it's probably not very interesting, but it's in. Let's just keep going, and hopefully we don't run into any more fitment issues, but I'm pretty sure we will. So before we do the mounting of the Supercharger, we have to fabricate a spacer for the power steering pump from Craftsworks. This thing costs like 50 bucks, and you know what? Frankly, I think we can fabricate it using the OEM bracket. It really is basically this shape minus the adjusting part, and there might be a concern about the thickness, but I mean, some washers can help space it out, so I'm gonna give that a shot instead of giving them 50 bucks. So let's get into it and start modifying this bracket. Okay, and there's our bracket all cut. I think this is going to work. Let's give it a shot. So we got our modified spacer or modified bracket in there, and I kind of dry fitted the Supercharger bracket, and kind of just already just looking at it, it seems like this is going to work. I don't think I have to put any spacers or I'm sorry, washers or anything like that to get it to line up. The only thing is there's the power steering pivot bolt right there, and there's a little bit of a gap right there, so I might have to put a washer there to kind of get it lined up flush with the rest of the mounting points, but I think this is going to work. I think we did it. Boom! Avoided paying 50 bucks unnecessarily for some cheap piece of metal. But all right, feeling pretty good about this. Let's go ahead and continue mounting up the Supercharger. Yes, 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 the bracket is in, which means the next step is to finally mount the Supercharger. So let's not waste any more time. Let's do that. Yes! We got the Supercharger belt on and we got it all tensioned to where it needs to be. That was a little bit of a bitch, but I'm gonna give you a top tip. You're going to want this tool. Jump cut! Alright, so this is super, super helpful. I'm pretty sure I could not have gotten the belt on without this $5 tool. And there it is, stretch belt tool. And essentially what happens is you put this onto the crankshaft pulley, belt goes right here, and as you turn the crank clockwise, it'll start to kind of push the belt onto the gear. Absolutely no way I would have gotten it without this simple tool. But yes, belt's on, it's tensioned, everything's tightened up into spec according to the torque spec. The next step we're gonna do is we need to finish putting the intercooler piping. It kind of fits like that. Pretty cool. And then finish running the intake. And then also connecting our fuel lines. Oh, that just went out. Connecting our fuel lines to the Supercharger and then priming up the Supercharger. We're almost there, you guys. We are like 90% there. So let's keep going. Okay, intake routing is done. It took like 3 times longer than it should have because my MAF sensor, I guess the bolts were stripped or the riv nuts were stripped or something like that, so it just kept spinning, so I had to cut it out. Also, it is a super tight fit, and I think also, unfortunately, I think because I have like extended top hats or something like that for my coilovers, it barely clears the intake. But I think I got it routed. The hood closes. I think we're good here. What's next is, and we're gonna tighten all the clamps on the intercooler piping. And then there's a couple vacuum hoses that I gotta go ahead and hook up as well, but we're pretty much good there. Oh yes, look at how it's looking. The Supercharger is pretty much all but hooked up. What we gotta do right now is we gotta trim the OEM fan shrouds to hopefully be able to fit this charge pipe right here. And then the only step left is basically to prime the Supercharger and get the oil in here, and then prime it to get all the oil through the system before we crank it on for the first time. There's some other stuff too, as you can see. We gotta trim under trays, and I gotta do the boost gauge eventually and stuff, but pretty much we are almost ready to turn this car on. Okay, fans are in. With a little bit of convincing and shoving, it fits. It's super tight. You can kind of see it's like rubbing up against the charge pipe, but fans are in. So next up is priming the Supercharger to get the oil through it. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, go for it. There we go. That is not good. That is not good. All right, well, I hope everyone is proud of me because I don't know if you saw it in that clip, but when we started the car, it was struggling to start, and then it started smoking really bad. And what ended up happening is, you can see, focus, yeah, that's the belt. It basically melted. So what we think is happening is basically this idler pulley probably isn't spinning, and it's just obviously creating friction. It's melting the belt. I have an idea of probably what it is because when I got the kit, again, secondhand, or maybe even from the factory, I don't know if it comes installed by Craftsworks, but that pulley was not installed. So it looks simple enough. I just thought I had to attach it. I think it may have been assembled wrong or whatever, but the sucky thing is we're gonna have to pretty much yank everything back out so that we can get that idler pulley installed correctly, which sucks because, everything's on, but now we gotta take it all back out. I mean, we gotta do it. So I'm not even gonna record that. I'm just gonna yank it out, and hopefully it'll flash to when everything is installed correctly and we can try getting it started again. Yay. Okay, so we got the Supercharger belt back on, torqued everything back down to spec, tightened and tensioned everything correctly, I think and I hope. So we're ready for the second time to turn on the car to see if everything works correctly. So wish us luck. Oh boy, I'm really nervous. All right, my dude, go for it. Good. Hold on. It's good. Nothing's smoking. That's good. Okay, so far so good. Nothing's smoking. The belts look like they're spinning correctly. Right now we're just confirming the oil level, so we gotta let the car warm up a little bit, but so far so good. Okay, so good news. It looks like everything is running the way it should be. We got our oil level to where they specified it should be. Didn't see any other problems or anything come up when we were doing the oil leveling, so that is a really good sign that we are boosted. The only things left that we have to do is I'm gonna put the boost gauge in so that we can make sure that we're boosting as well as we're not, slipping the belt or anything like that. So we're gonna wire up the boost gauge. Then we gotta cut the under trays and do some other small bits before we get the wheels back on the car. They also suggest that we drive the car for about 65 miles without, unnecessary revving or any wide open throttles to kind of break it in. So we're gonna go ahead and do that as well. But then hopefully this week we should be good to go for wide open throttle testing, as well as to see how much power we're actually making. So I'm really stoked. Let's hurry up and get all of that stuff done out of the way so we can get to the fun stuff.
Oh, shit. Looks good.
All right, so we just got back from taking a real quick test drive of the Miata with the Supercharger in it, and I have to tell you, it runs like crap. So the stock fuel management unit that comes with the kit is garbage, so we're gonna take that out and throw that away because I'm getting really lean conditions under boost, and I'm also getting a lean tip-in. So basically when I'm getting on the accelerator, the engine hesitates. I'm gonna have to get a new engine management unit. I already kind of knew that was gonna happen, and this just confirms that we have to do it. So, okay, the day has finally come because we're about to use this to paint that. Yep, today is the day we finally paint the Miata. It's been a long time coming, and I'm kind of getting sick of all these mismatched colors. So the first thing we're gonna do is we are gonna sand the car down a little bit. I think I'm gonna start with 320. And also we're going to Bondo up some spots. You can see I already have some Bondo here. And also got to Bondo the mishap when we were doing our fender flares. And once we get all that evened out, we're gonna go ahead and again sand it with 320. So let's get to it. Certain panels will be more visible when you're like looking at it. Like no one's gonna like down here, that shit. No one's gonna fucking, car's way too damn low. Ain't nobody gonna go down that way. You know what I mean? Right. And if they do see the car, they're gonna be far enough that it's gonna look good. But panels like right here, I gotta do my best. Yeah. Because this one you'll be seeing in the sun and shit. You know?
Pretty good so far though. Good progress.
Yeah, it's coming along, coming along. Fucking hate it, but prep sucks. I'm doing a 70% job on it. 70%. The C is passing right now.
There you go.
That's what it is.
There you go. Yeah. It's clear now, right? Yeah.
Perfect.
Oops,
Oh, that's why it was.
All right, I don't know if I am in the shot or if it's my chest only.
That's a.
Okay, so we're calling it a night for the day. I got a little bit of a late start because yesterday we got a little bit heavy on the 40 ounces, so got a late start. But the car is somewhat sanded. Try to use the DA sander. I have 150 circular pieces of sandpaper, which unfortunately I'm pretty sure I'm not going to use. The problem that I'm having is the panels are not flat, that I can really use the sander very effectively, and I'm ending up having to pretty much hand and block sand it anyway, so that's a bit of a learning curve. But I'm going to try to get a fresh start tomorrow and try to get the rest of the car sanded down with 320 grit. I'm also seeing some things I'm going to have to Bondo again. I hate Bondo, but I think we're going to have to Bondo some things. And yeah, I mean, moving along a little bit behind schedule, but when are we ever on schedule, right? So the car is all pretty much sanded down. It was really, really helpful to use one of these foam interface pads so that I can use the DA sander on the entire body. We got our Bondo work done, so pretty much all the dents that I wanted, the major dents anyway, I filled up with Bondo. There's a lot of rock chips on the bumper and things like that that honestly, I'm gonna rattle can this car. I don't want to spend the extra hours trying to fix every tiny little dent. I think overall, yeah, it might show when the paint is done, but you know, I don't think it's going to be that bad. So I did fix all the major dents and scratches though with Bondo. So the next step is we're going to build our paint booth. Oh yeah, I actually still got to do the windshield here. Then after that, we're going to go ahead and mask everything off and get it ready to shoot with primer. So still a lot of work ahead of us, but let's go ahead and get down to it. All right, so we are starting to build our ghetto paint booth using some generic plastic sheeting from Home Depot, super cheap to get a ton of. And basically what we did is we ran a bunch of string or wire across the top of our garage here. And then we are using, as you can see, just some masking tape and using that to secure the plastic sheeting. We're gonna go ahead and do that all the way around. to create our booth. If you're doing this at home in your garage, you'll probably have a little bit of an easier job doing this because all you really need to do is cover your walls. You're going to need to figure out some way to obviously cover your roof as well. And then we're going to also obviously close off all the walls. And I'm debating if I should just wet the floor or if I should just lay some plastic sheeting underneath to help prevent any dust.
Look at the mess. Look at the aftermath.
But I'll figure that when it comes. So let's go ahead and just continue building our walls for our booth. All right, so we got most of the paint booth put together. We got the car in here. Just knowing ahead of time, it's gonna be pretty tight to paint, but I think it will be doable. It's not airtight, but I think it'll be enough, which is just to make sure, you know, no larger specks of dust fall into, onto the car, and also to try to help keep the fumes out of the rest of the garage. I can't paint tonight, obviously, because it's nighttime, but when I do paint, I am gonna extend this wall right here. That's just gonna go ahead and complete the seal, and obviously leave a little bit of a walkway here so that the rest of the boys can get through the garage. Overall, you know, it was a lot of work to get the booth up, unfortunately, but here it is. So again, next, all we got to do left onto the car is I'm gonna run it a couple passes over with some alcohol to clean it up real good, and then get the primer on there. Well, it is paint day, well, loose primer day. The booth is built. I got my filters in and my fans in, and of course, it's raining today, but booth is built. A little bit concerned because, as you can see right now, we look okay. We got some positive air pressure because earlier I had 2 exhaust fans and I thought that hole would be enough where the filter is right there to bring an intake full of air, but what happened is the entire booth collapsed. So a little bit concerning. I'm gonna try to see if I can maybe get those walls to just stay back away from the paint job, but we're gonna move on. We're gonna spray the car with primer. Generally, you don't really need to use primer if you have a really good like paint job already underneath and you just need to scuff it up a bit, but as you can see, I had to do a lot of Bondo work, body work, there's bare metal showing and whatnot, so we're gonna hit it with the primer. This will also let us kind of get a good glimpse of how the cans are spraying onto the car. Oh man, you can see it's windy too, it's terrible. Spray onto the car and give us a good idea of how the paint will lay down. Also, real quickly, I wanted to try something to hopefully make the primer spray a little bit easier, and that is to warm up the can, and that'll make the primer spray a little bit smoother. Been seeing a lot of good things about doing something like this before you spray, so let's give it a shot. Okay, primer is on. Honestly, it was not a good experience. Problems I was running into. Well, first off, I went through a lot more cans than I initially thought, and actually one of them broke. So I actually had to run out, luckily, and grab a couple more cans just to finish the job. And even then, I think I went through, for the Miata, I went through about 6, 7 cans of primer just to get one coat on. Problems I'm running into is obviously the stock tip that comes with the spray cans. It's just the spray pattern is like maybe an inch wide, and it's really hard to get a nice even coat with that kind of tip. Luckily, I did sort of expect this in the beginning, and what I have been using is this tip right here. This is a graffiti wide spray can tip. They call them, I believe they call them like Rusto fat caps, and I'll leave a link where you can grab some of these. It's basically a female tip that goes into these Rust-Oleum cans, and it gives you a much wider spray fan. And once I switched over to that cap, it just went a lot smoother. But overall, it's way too many cans, not even enough, takes way too much time. But here we are with our first, probably our only coat of primer on. All right. 2 coats roughly laid down. The actual color coat laid down a lot easier and better than the primer coat did. I'm pretty happy with it. Pretty happy with it. So it's drying right now. It's still really, really wet. The next portion is once it's dry, we're gonna wet sand it and then hopefully buff it to kind of see what kind of gloss we got, but not bad so far. I mean, there's orange peel. That's to be expected with spray paint. But again, I'm really stoked. The primer really did not make me feel so good, but the color coat laid down a lot better. So let's let it dry and then we'll move on to the next step. Now, while this paint is drying, I'm gonna also paint the over fenders. So let's go ahead and get that done. Alright, so the Miata is all painted and everything, including the over fenders that we got over there, but the job is not finished yet. We still have to do a little bit of wet sanding and buffing to really get the best finish that we can on the Miata. So we obviously have some orange peel on the paint job, and we're going to hit it with some 3000 grit only because I am a little bit concerned as how thick the paint job is, so I don't want to start with anything a little bit too aggressive that I accidentally burn through the paint. So we're gonna see what 3000 will do for us, and we'll go from there. So we got a lot of work ahead of us, so let's get down to it. Alright, so quick update. We just finished sanding the car down, wet sanding it with 3000 grit, and unfortunately the 3000 grit really isn't cutting that much. There's still orange peel, and when I stepped it down to 1500 grit, it definitely got the orange peel out. However, the moment I put a buffer to it, it just ate through the paint. So there was actually a couple of test spots on the car that actually we burnt through the paint. So kind of my fear is being realized is that I didn't put enough layers of paint on there to correctly be able to, you know, correct the paint. I think what we're gonna have to kind of settle with is just as best as the 3000 grit will get us and as best as a buff and polish will get us. So there's probably still gonna be orange peel. It's not gonna be like a glass finish, but then again, we did spray paint this with spray paint cans, so not really quite sure the type of results that I was really expecting, but I mean, on the bright side, it's pretty glossy. So let's just go ahead and get that done, and let's see what our final results are gonna be like.
Let's go.
Now again, this paint job is not show car perfect. Definitely has its faults. Partly because I couldn't be bothered to fix them, and partly because we shot it out of a can. Now, but the real question is, what should you do? Now, obviously shooting out of a gun and a compressor is gonna give you a lot better results. Materials can be cheaper than doing it out of a spray can, and you'll get much more durable, much more thicker layers of paint than if you did it out of a spray can. But in a pinch, you can successfully and decently spray a car with spray cans. Now, if you want a passable job like on the Miata, it really is quite simple. You're just gonna need about triple or quadruple the amount of cans so that you can get a nice thick layer of paint so that you can wet sand all the orange peel out. Although maybe a flat or satin color might be a little bit more forgiving. Okay, so a quick breakdown of the materials being used for this project. Starting with the primer, and used Rusto's 2-in-1 filler and sandable primer. This primer, as you saw in the video, doesn't really spray on very good, and you don't really get a lot per can. So I actually had to go through 8 cans of primer, and honestly, I probably would feel more comfortable doing it with 10 cans. Because again, if you saw the one layer that we were able to get out of these 8 cans, it really wasn't a good first layer. Moving on to the color, I used Sunrise Red, the advanced formula stuff, and I bought 12 cans total. I think we went through about 9 or so cans, so there was a little bit left over, and we got about 2 coats of paint onto the car with these 9 cans. Again, the color went on a lot smoother than the primer, and each can runs about, well, actually a 6-pack runs about 35, so I'd say we spent about, what, 70 bucks on color, and the primer actually ended up probably costing us around like, I want to say like 35 to 40 bucks. So all in all, what is that, like $110 or so for this paint job? Not too bad. And that is gonna do it for today's episode of Hazard Garage. The Miata turned out really good. I am super stoked. You can't even tell sometimes that it was out of a spray can. But it had me worried in the beginning, but again, I think it turned out great. So the Supercharger's been installed on the car for a little bit, but we haven't really been able to drive it because the tune is not very good. The stock fuel management box that came with the car just was not working really good. There was a lot of hesitation on throttle, and the car was running really lean. So I went out and I bought myself some fuel and timing cards to hopefully be able to fine tune the tune a little bit more so that we can actually run the car with the Supercharger. Problem was, despite getting the new fuel management cards, the car was still running really lean. Thankfully, we installed a wideband air-fuel ratio gauge so that we can actually see these numbers, because otherwise, I wouldn't have noticed. So after some troubleshooting, we think it's the injectors that are maxing out and just aren't able to give us enough fuel no matter what the ECU tells it to. So we got some 350cc injectors. We're gonna take out the old 310s, put these in. Hopefully, this solves our problem. Yeah, of course I was gonna drop one of the injector spacers. People of the internet, I am going to need your help. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give me strength to find that injector spacer that I just dropped from my engine bay. Thanks. Good news. I was able to get the injector spacer. Bad news. I think I have a bit of a power steering pump leak. I mean, it was like weeping a little bit before, but not this bad where it kind of spilled out onto the garage floor. I mean, it looks a little bit worse than it really is because I kind of put a little bit of degreaser on the floor to kind of clean it up. But yay, that's gonna be something I'm definitely gonna have to probably change in the future. But you know what? Let's just see how bad it gets, because I just cannot be bothered with it right now. We gotta get this thing tuned. The injectors are installed, so let's see and pray that everything starts. Okay, everything seems to be running good. The car turns on, no problems there, except there is one issue. You can see that 10 right there, that's my wideband. And I am currently maxing out my air-fuel ratio at 10. That is nowhere near 14.7, which is where it should be. Oh, God, this is such a pain. Oh, that's a brake. Little rich. Give it a minute. Oh, there it goes. There it goes.
There you go.
Ah, car fixed itself. I'll take it. I'll take it. I ain't gonna complain. Nice. Let's go tune the car. Alright, so we were doing our testing and popped a intercooler hose, but we got it in loosely, so we're just gonna limp back to the garage, tighten everything back up. Okay, so I want to show you guys a little bit of how we're adjusting the fuel cards during our tuning runs. So here's the fuel card, here's the timing card. Luckily, we don't have to touch the timing pretty much. Just leave it alone is what they said, and we should be good for our application. Fuel card is where we're going to be doing our fuel adjustments as we do our pulls, depending on what our wideband air fuel ratio gauge tells us, and it's really cool. There's different flashing modes. When you look at the instructions, they'll tell you like what RPM range it affects it, but the main RPM range that we're going to do is they call like, actually I don't know what they call it, but it essentially adjusts fuel across your entire RPM range instead of just RPM specific. So we just push this middle button and you can see how it changes colors and it enters different modes. The mode that we will be adjusting is this mode right here that flashes green. So we have it currently adjusted at 5. They said to start off at 6, but I think the first time I ran this car, it was running a little bit rich, so we'll start off at 5 to kind of see where we're at. Okay, so we just got back from another third or fourth pull in the Miata, and that's 2 days in a row that I think I got our air fuel ratios and our fuel settings set to a place that is good for the track. It's a little bit richer. I'm running around like 11.4, 11.6 on average. But again, because this is going to be a track car, that I think that is a safe bet. I'm still going to have to keep an eye out on the air fuel ratios to make sure they don't creep up to anything around 12, especially on the track and especially when it gets hotter. But I think we're in a good place. And I'm stoked that the car is finally tuned. Everything is set up and it's working, because that has been a journey to get the car tuned right. But I would be a lot happier if the dyno pulls were a little bit more in my favor. So as you can see, the dyno pulls, we got roughly around 150 to about 160 horsepower on a good day. That is a lot lower than I was initially anticipating. Based off all the dyno numbers on the Craftsworks kit, and even numbers off of the Track Dog Racing kit, even though they use a different blower, I should have been looking at least around 185 horsepower. They rated the 1.6 liters for the Craftsworks kits to be at like 170, but we're getting 150 horsepower. So I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below what you think might be robbing us of horsepower. It could be the fact that we're running a little bit richer, even though not that much rich, and also, I don't know, maybe the motor just wasn't that healthy to begin with. We did have low compression in cylinder 4, and we also are creeping up at over 200,000 miles. I don't know, maybe its time is near, but overall, I'm glad the car at least is running, and it should be at least track ready. I mean, 50 horsepower is still pretty good. So our power steering is leaking fluid like it just drank 5 beers. I do not have a drinking problem. So unfortunately, we gotta rip out the supercharger and replace the seals in the pump. While I'm in there, I also wanted to add a power steering cooler because for some reason, the 97 Miatas didn't get one from the factory. The last time that we took the car to the track, it spewed power steering fluid all over the engine bay because it overheated. So let's get pumping. So we put some UV dye into the power steering fluid so that we can identify where the leak is coming from. And it looks like it's coming from where the high pressure power steering line plugs into the pump. So we're gonna go ahead and take it out and just replace all the seals in the pump anyway, because mechanically it's still fine. Okay, so we got the power steering pump out. Luckily, I was able to not have to remove the oil lines for the supercharger because that is $100 a quart. I ain't trying to mess with that. All right, power steering pump is right here, so we're just gonna go ahead and open it up, see what we got. That's how you do it, first try. So probably the best way to do this is to use your two people picks, try to stretch out the clip, and then have like a third friend just shove something in there to prevent it from collapsing, and then just kind of walk it up, pop it off. Should be good to go. Don't worry about ruining it because you should get an extra one in your seal pump kit. So. Okay, so in addition to getting all the seals replaced in the power steering pump, I'm also going to be adding this power steering cooler because apparently the 97s didn't come with one. So I was experiencing some overheating issues at the track last time, so I think adding one of these in combination with some high temp full synthetic automatic transmission fluid should hopefully take care of that. Now, ideally I wanted to put this power steering cooler like, you know, kind of in the front right here where it can get a lot of airflow, but I got an intercooler, supercharger oil cooler, thick radiator. There's not a lot of room back there to fit anything. So I'm thinking running it on the side right here, kind of in the wheel well. I mean, it's not ideal, but I think it should be good enough. I guess time will tell, but that's where we're gonna put it. So we just gotta get a custom bracket fabbed up, and I already began running the lines to get it all set up. Now where I'm gonna be running this, I believe this is the correct way to do it, is this is our reservoir for the power steering fluid. And there is two, like, I guess nipples coming from it. One large one, I believe, goes straight into the pump. And then this separate one that comes off of this tiny nipple right there, that one goes straight into the steering rack. So I'm actually gonna break that line, and we're gonna run a line from here into the power steering cooler. And then from the cooler, it'll go straight back into the rack. Now I want everyone to see the pinnacle of hazard engineering. This is going to be our custom bracket that we're going to hang our power steering cooler from. It's basically held together with two different types of JB weld. Not a pretty solution, but it is hopefully a solution. Essentially this is just going to hang off of the, actually I'll just show you right now. It's gonna hang off the chassis like this, and then our power steering cooler will be zip tied to some of these holes right here. I'll show you again once everything's all hooked up. Okay, just kidding. The last bracket that I made instantly disintegrated when I touched it, so instead we just got these two corner braces from Home Depot or something and welded them together. All right, let's put this on. All right, check it out. Got the cooler mounted. I think it's in a pretty good position. It's looking a little tight right here for the hoses, but I don't think the sway bar moves enough that this is going to be an issue. But of course, I'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, it's all mounted up, so looks pretty good. All we just got to do now is connect it to the reservoir and get the pump back in.
Yes.
If I up this, should probably replace that.
Yeah, I would.
All right, so we got a small kink in our plans. The power steering hose that goes from the reservoir to the pump, it's like a 180-degree molded line. Well, being 30 years old, it cracked when I removed it. And unfortunately, none of the parts stores sell a replacement. And we can't use a normal hose because the kink or the angle is just really, really sharp that it'll kink the line. So have to put in a special order at Mazda, and it's gonna be a few days before we can get working on it again, which sucks, but it is what it is. Honestly, I feel like a lot of the times when it comes to working on these type of cars, like the reason why things take so long is really just half the time you're waiting for parts. But once we get the part, we'll go ahead and we'll finish putting the pump in and getting everything put back together. Power steering seems fine, super smooth, everything is good, Supercharger works. That's a good thing. Only time will tell on the track to see if our power steering fluid and our cooler works to keep our temps down, but other than that, I think we're good to go. Previous episodes, we installed some coilover sleeves and shocks on the Miata and took it out on the track. Looking real good. And I think it did pretty well. But just like a guy with ED, we need to make it stiffer. Let's install some coilovers. Coilovers that we're putting on this car are these Meister R Club Races. The spring rates are 12.5 and 7.5 for the rear, I believe. So these are gonna be nice and stiff for the track. What's also really cool about them is that I believe they come height adjusted for the Miata, straight from the factory. So don't have to mess with the ride heights or anything like that, unless we get more rubbing or something like that. But yeah, these should be good to go. So this should be a really easy swap. Why do I struggle so much? There was already a video about how to do, or how we did the suspension in a previous video, so you can check that out if you want to see a little bit more detail. But this one, I'm just gonna go ahead and put the camera down and let's get installing. So once again, we got our coilovers from our good friends over at mossmiata.com. They are the top website when it comes to shopping for your Miata parts, so a big shout out and thank you, mossmiata.com, link in the description below. Check them out. All right, check it out. We got one coilover in, and you might be thinking, damn, Hazard, you got that in pretty quick. And you would be wrong. You would be wrong. Unfortunately, the shock body was too long to fit, so I had to basically lower the ride height adjustment to get it short enough to wiggle it in. And it sucks, man. I banged a bunch of shit trying to get it in. I even nicked my fenders. Ugh, it sucks. But, I mean, track car, it's probably gonna get banged up anyway, right? Anyway, now that I'm wiser, let's get into the other side. Oh, but hold on. Don't it look good, though? Don't it look good? We got the other front coilover installed. Much easier this time around. So let's go ahead and move on to the rear. right, the rears are in. A lot easier to put these in than the fronts. The only difficult part was... Get up,
Oh no, you didn't.
was doing the driver's side because you got all of these hoses for the gas tank in the way, but they are in, so let's get the wheels back on and give it a quick test drive.
It's your boy Jay. Check out the Integra, motherfucker.
Shout out to Alex's foot for coming in clutch. Thank you, sir. All right, let's get the wheels on this, man. That shit. Let's get the wheels on this test drive. Street testing of the new coilovers. Now this is a bumpy part of the road. Honestly, doesn't really feel any more rough than the old Coney yellow ground control setup. I currently have these coilovers set on the softest setting. And I gotta say, already, it's not rough at all. Feels pretty good, pretty linear. It's not bouncy or any body roll or anything like that when turning. I'm liking it so far. Feels good. It's very linear. Very smooth. Good control. The body roll is very well controlled. It's very smooth. It's not super sway. It's just super responsive. Oh wow. Yeah, these roads are not smooth by any means. You know, I just went over train tracks and look how crappy this is, but my God, it is really, really well behaved on the street. Holy crap. Hey, what's going on everybody? In today's video, I'm gonna give you guys a quick tour of my supercharged wide-body Miata that got over 1 million views on YouTube. So, starting with the exterior of the car, I have an eBay front lip and an eBay rear deck spoiler, carbon Miata fender flares, MST time attack wheels that are 15x8 plus 0, wrapped in 225 Falcon RT660s. I also got some smaller stuff around the car like these smoked out turn signals, LED headlights, and an F1 style rear brake light. I also painted the exterior of the car red using Rust-Oleum spray cans. For the top, I don't have a soft top anymore, but I do have a GJR bikini top. Moving on to the engine. I have a Craftsworks Supercharger kit with 350cc injectors, and to manage all of that, I'm using a TrackDog fuel and timing card. Cooling the car is a eBay aluminum radiator, and I also have a Moriso oil catch can. The car makes, I imagine, around 160 or so wheel horsepower, but this is based off of a dyno app and not an actual dyno, so can't really confirm, but it feels way quicker than it did stock, that's for sure. For the exhaust, I have a Monzo replica exhaust with a cherry bomb resonator, but it's still pretty loud. Moving on to the interior, I have a personal Grinta steering wheel on an eBay replica Kyostar short hub. For my gauges, I have Pro Sport gauges, a boost gauge, a wideband air-fuel ratio gauge, and a water temp gauge. For my radio, I have a generic Amazon single-DIN radio with a screen so that I can hook up a rear backup camera. For my shifter, I have my Corgi shift boot that is custom, and also a G Racing short shifter. Really awesome shifters. I have a video of it. I'll leave a link in the description. Shout out to G Racing short shifters for providing me with their shifter kit. For our seats, I have two Sparco Sprint seats that are mated to JAS Motorsports adapters. And to hold this in, in, we got Race-Quip 5-point racing harnesses. We also got a Hard Dog M1 roll bar, which is great because it's a little bit taller, but at the sacrifice of seat travel, which isn't so much of a problem for shorter drivers. But you also can't run a soft top, so I took the soft top out. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's a quick walk around the supercharged wide-body Miata. I'll leave a link in the description below to all the videos, including the time-lapse build video that got over 1 million views so far on YouTube. I also am doing a Project M3 right now, so go ahead onto the channel and check that out. And also any future builds that I might do, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.